Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. Let's see how fast I can do this while talking. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNoTino on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, @agent_70 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads.
What's up, everybody? Coming at you, co-hosting from the borough of Kings.
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
Yes, sir. We are back. Yes, ma'am. Also, and yes, everybody else. We are back after a week's hiatus. I hope everyone out there had a good Thanksgiving holiday. If you celebrate, or if you just ate well and had a good day off, you know, that also works. All of that works. You know. So, but yeah, hopefully it's been good to everybody, and you know. While I go ahead and get the rest of the pleasantries out of the way, you can find this here podcast on the Coast Lizard Podcast Network. Wait, that's too far ahead. You find us on the Coast Lizard Podcast Network at cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast Lizard Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and leave us all positive 5-star reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts. And we're still working on getting our Spotify up and running correctly.
Indeed. Yes, you can find us recording most times every Thursday night, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, on the YouTube channel of The Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/The Kliq Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Again, please click like, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you know when we are on live.
Yeah. Or if I do what I should have done, like prior to us starting, and put a tweet out there. But hey, it'll be out there eventually. And speaking of eventually, we are going to start off with a couple of quick recaps of the shows from the last couple of weeks. So first off, we're going to do the last couple of weeks of Invincible. Jing, I wish I had a little stinger. Before we go into Monarch Legacy of Monsters.
Sure. I'm going to hit the spoiler bell just because, just in case you are that far behind and you have not caught any parts of these two shows, you are now forewarned that we're going to be at least touching on some basic story points from these most recent episodes of these two shows. So here we go. Spoilers incoming in 3, 2, 1. So first up, we're going to talk about Invincible. Did we cover episode 3 by itself?
No, I don't think we've covered anything. Because remember last week was 3. After it would have been 3 if we had recorded. So
I see. So 4 was this week. Okay.
Wait, 4?
No, 4 was last week, right? So I don't know. I don't know if we discussed 3.
I don't think we did actually.
Right. So then 3 and 4, right? Mm-hmm. So the last half of this first half of this season of Invincible, because they're releasing 8 total, and it's a block of 4 and 4, 2 blocks of 4 and 4. Right. So I think it's fair. Right. Well, I think it's fair just to talk about the first 4 overall, but obviously we're going to talk about a little bit more about the last 2. I will say that, not being very familiar with the Invincible comic, I enjoyed hearing from other podcasts as I was, after I watched, that a lot of the stories that are being told and adapted are basically pretty straight from the comics, other than maybe out of sequence. It may not be a beat for beat telling of the story, but the stories themselves are essentially straight from the comics, maybe slightly out of sequence. So I enjoyed that part. I still have not yet gotten to that Adam Eve special, but I like where they're taking her character.
So that ends up being kind of funny because if you had, since you are caught up with Invincible, you will notice some similarities into a couple of things that happen there and here, but it's nothing like major. It's just like, okay, that's funny.
Right. And there are a couple of reveals in the last 2 episodes. One of them is obviously a very large reveal that we will not discuss in detail, but it involves the return of a major character from the first season.
Mm-hmm. And possibly the introduction of, and this is where, like Agent 70, my lack of knowledge on the Invincible series, is lacking, because
the comic series, right?
Yes, the comic series, because I think there is another introduction that we see that might not be in the comics from what I've seen around, but I'm not sure about that also. So, but that's going to be a thing in I guess during the season, and probably however long that becomes a thing. So either way, though, I'm just going to go ahead and just say, like, I've been enjoying the show. Like, the show is still firing on all pistons as it normally does. We haven't gotten to where, like, the end of last season was just like, it's a lot of it's a lot of action going on and a lot of chaos. Like, right. And there's been some of that in these 4 episodes, mind you, but not as much as we got in that last bit of the first season.
Right. I'll say that I think if there's one thing I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to get used to it. The style of animation and the brutality that they depict are still kind of jarring to me. When I see the brutality, I guess I'm just used to like the smooth look, the very slick animation from Japanese anime. And the way things are drawn is very slick and smooth. And obviously the gore is still there, but it just doesn't feel as visceral as the Invincible gore is. That's just me. I'm still, it doesn't make me uncomfortable. I just kind of recoil a little bit at seeing it sometimes.
I mean, that's actually good, though, because if you didn't, that would say probably more.
Sociopath! Yes, right. I know.
So... But yeah, the fact that it can still get you is a thing, and they don't seem to be leaning on it as much. But it's like, you know what? I feel like because they set it up the way they did in the first season, it's like, you know what, shit could happen, and it does. So it shouldn't be, necessarily that big of a deal, because you already know this is a part of it. But at the same time, it's still like, this is something you don't really see in other cartoons, comic books, / whatever animated media. Well, I take it back. That's not true, because there's some anime that really gets gory, but those are made to be that way.
Right.
Shout out to Attack on Titan, I guess.
Right. I mean, obviously that makes you recoil, but there's just something about, I guess, like Superman level characters beating each other up, to that level, like where they're not exactly invulnerable. Let's put it that way.
Right. Basically, almost to a pulp.
Right. So. That's the part, I guess. That's the part that they're super strong, but not nearly as invulnerable as we've seen other characters depicted.
Right.
So, but yeah, as I mentioned, that return of that character took me a little bit by surprise, but I should not have been. I think I was expecting it in the second half of the season, to be perfectly honest. But I think they put it in a good spot, because it does tease the second half of the season.
Right. It felt like they were, I don't want to say telegraphs, but it felt like you could kind of see the hints there, but they kind of tried to veil it enough to where we were like, I don't know if we're actually going to do this. But then it's like, okay, sure. It felt like they was kind of working up to it, but kind of hide the fact that they were working up to it.
Right.
So
no, that makes sense.
Yeah. Now there is another big mystery that I guess is starting to get solved, because there was the return of another character of a side character that even another character was like, wait, hold on. And which caused, I guess, that character to kind of start questioning some things. Because I know some of us who are not familiar with the book, you know, that's probably a thing that is already a thing that Invincible folks, the comic book Invincible folks already knew about. But the rest of us are like, you know, the hell does this happen? How does this happen? So I guess we will get into more of that as when the show comes back next year, because this last one was it until next year. As 87 I might have said already.
When we say next year's right around the corner.
True.
It's kind of scary how quickly November came and went.
Yeah, true. But as I've said, probably prior to the show, the end of the year always blazes by.
It's insane. It's insane. So, all right. Next up, then we're also going to discuss and probably lightly spoil Monarch, the Apple TV Plus show by from Legendary Studios, the American Godzilla movie people and King Kong movie people. And I'm enjoying these episodes of Monarch so far. I think the cast is winning. I think the cast is very good.
Mm-hmm.
The actors are very good and the writing is very good. And I know that people will be disappointed because there's not nearly as much monster fighting as, you know, might be teased in, you know, most Godzilla movies. But I like that, you know, as long as you know that the premise is basically the history of Monarch. That's just the basic premise of it. And that's not exactly the story.
Right.
But it's the history of Monarch. And, you know, it's told through the eyes of several characters. And it's, you know, without spoiling it, basically characters who are descendants and direct contributors to the history of Monarch. Mm-hmm. It's their story.
Right.
And, you know, I just think that the way it's, you know, the way the story is being told, it's accentuated by the skill of the actors and the excellent writing. And, you know, that's high praise for a sci-fi monster show.
One that is on Apple TV or
right.
strictly on a streaming service, I should say. It's not just Apple TV, because, you know.
Right.
Yeah, like Amazon's got the budget. Apple TV's probably got a fairly decent budget, but they're still kind of beholden to. It's like, well, they only got so much, and there's only so much you're going to be able to do with, you know.
Right.
Despite you might have a little bit more money than putting it out other ways.
So, a little bit more money than Peacock, but
yes,
you know.
Indeed. But that being said, on that, yeah. So I agree with Age 70 on that, and I'm just going to add that I don't know if you felt this, especially in what was it? Episode? Was it episode? It was episode 3 or 2. I can't remember because it's all blended together at this point. There was a certain.
Yeah, describe it. I'll see if I can remember.
There is a certain part where there is a test being done against the wishes of you know, the scientists. And from that test, someone or something does show up, but they didn't play the music. And I was kind of bummed by that. So I don't know if you remember that part or not.
That had to be episode 2.
Yeah, it looks at it, it's blended together. Because 3 was them coming across the older version of the one of the characters. But so that's another thing that's actually kind of fun that I want to kind of mention real quick. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, go ahead.
Oh, so the basic I mean, people know this already. So you have the same character being played by 2 different people. That is the younger and the older version of the character played by Kurt and Wyatt Russell. The funny part about that is, to me, because especially from that first episode, was that it almost feels like White was really trying to channel his dad when he was speaking, especially first off, and that kind of tickled me. And when spoiler alert, like I said, when Kurt Russell
appeared
comes in, he kind of seems like an older version of one of his other characters, such as like Jack Burton.
Sure.
from
sure. I got that. I definitely got that.
So it was kind of funny to see. It feels like they both were kind of channeling that character just a smidge.
Yeah, just a little.
And the main young lady who was attached to, which all of this is kind of like, as Agent 70 says, like, yeah, we're seeing kind of sort of the history of Monarch through the lens of this character, and then some, a newer generation of a character that we saw in the movies, which we did see that character in the beginning of the first episode. My thing was, why couldn't it have been Sarazawa as opposed to this character who pretty much, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Kong Island, that's pretty much where they came and went. But that is the character they're kind of focusing on in a sense. So I was like, I want to see Sarah. Now we did get a name drop of Sarazawa, so that's good. So I don't think Ken Watanabe is going to show up in this show, but it would be cool if he had, or if, say, the people that this show was around was focused on them as opposed to this other dude who had to go back and remember, outside of seeing the original version or a version of the original character in the beginning of the show. It's like, oh right, that dude. So, but it still all makes sense, and it's still a great show to watch. And I know, like Agent 70 says, like, yeah, people are kind of like wanting to get to the big stuff and whatnot. But what we've got so far, I feel like needed to be answered, or at least started to be answered, because we're still not getting a couple of answers as far as Monarch is concerned. But I feel like we will get there by the time these 10 episodes get played out. Because that was kind of the whole running thing through those runs of movies. It's like, okay, we have Monarch here, but who the hell why are they around? And we're kind of sort of getting that here. But I've been enjoying it.
No, it's fun. I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to watching this week's episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. And shout out to Milk-Fed Criminals, which is Matt Fraction and Killer Pseudosonics' production company, who are doing this, because I don't think I remembered they were behind this, especially with Fraction getting a producer credit here. And as I told Agent 70, I think he possibly did a cameo in the first episode, because I swear to goodness that looked like him in one scene. So I was like, all right, shout to him, because he's been kind of really low profile for a while now, especially on the comic book writing side.
Because he's been busy doing this stuff.
Right. So, and I know they've had a couple of projects that they've been trying to kind of get off the ground. This is, I guess, one of the ones that have actually made through. But like I said, it's good to see, and good to see him, if that was indeed him, which I am believing it was, put it that way. So if you have Apple TV Plus or some other means to check out the show, and you're interested in the whole Monarch verse, or as some call it, the Monster verse, you should definitely check it out. It's a not bad show. And shout out to the young lady who's the star of the show, because she's getting more action, more shine here than she did in Fast 9.
Yes. I was like, wait, I follow her already. I was just checking. I was like, wait, I follow her already on Instagram, probably from Fast 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to catch up. Like, I actually read the novel Pachinko recently, and she is an actress in the adaptation on Apple TV Plus. So I need to circle back to that.
Gotcha. There's actually a couple of things I want to circle about too, while I still have Apple TV Plus that I want to check out. But and that probably won't be for that's like a whole another month or so that I still have this. But yeah, there's actually a couple of things that I'm probably gonna check out. But like I said, shout out to Durr, shout out to the Russells, shout out to Kirstie Clemens, who hadn't seen in a minute, or excuse me, Iris West.
Who? Oh, is that who that was?
Mm-hmm.
I knew she looked familiar.
Mm-hmm. So, which is actually the funnier thing about this show, because as I was watching it, it was like, you know what? They have pulled a lot of MCU slash DC folks. Well, not a lot of DC folks, but like obviously Kurt and Wyatt Russell, have had some DCU time, but in the other movies like Kong Island,
time.
huh?
You said DCU time?
Well, DC. I mean, like I said, Kirstie Clemons is probably the only one I could think of that is even remotely, and I think her stuff mostly got cut out of that movie.
Right.
So, she's like the closest one that I could think of. And, I mean, and we're not counting old girl from Fast 9, but she's close enough. Right. But the movies had like Sam Jackson, Brie Larson, and Tom Hiddleston all in one movie.
Right.
So, it's kind of funny how they've managed to pull some folks, pull some folks one way or the other. But anyway, good stuff, y'all. So we're gonna, because like I said, if you get a chance to check it out, check it out. Those 3 letters might be of good service to you if you got them.
Absolutely, exactly, and you know what we're talking about, folks.
And with that, we're going to push over into the comic books of the week, or excuse me, of the last 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks worth of comics, folks.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Oh, shout out to Binge Games too. I didn't see you there in the chat. What's going on, good sir? Glad to see you.
How you doing? We're back. Get ready for 2 weeks worth of comics.
That's right. That's right. And we're going to start off with last week's books with. Oh, let me pull up. I forgot something. Immortal X-Men number 17.
Immortal X-Men number 17 is written by Kieron Gillen, with art by Juan Jose Rip, colors by David Curiel, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So this is essentially a direct follow-up to the Jean Grey limited series. Now, did you finish reading the Jean Grey limited series by one of our favorites, Weezy Simonson?
Yep, I did. And that's why I wanted you to wanted you to hit up Immortal.
Gotcha. So, there's obviously more than just Jean's story being followed here. We've got like the parallel track of what's going on with Charles Xavier on the remains of Krakoa, and what's going on with Jean and the X-Men the Krakoan refugees that are now stranded in, it's kind of a spoiler to say where they are, but I think it's been revealed in like a few issues already.
Definitely at the end of Jean Grey's, and I think 16. Yeah, I think they pretty much put that together. Yeah. All
right. So just in case you're behind, I still won't drop it, but if you are familiar with Phoenix, the canon of the Phoenix story, you'll recognize this right away. Even though Roddykat and I are familiar with it, it took us a hot second, just a quick second, just to think, oh, that sounds familiar. Let's go Google that.
I don't know if that was intentional, but a hot second. That was pretty good, though.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. It was purely accidental, but it's a nice coincidence. So, as I said, we're following Professor Xavier on Krakoa, also tying in elements from the Sins of Sinister storyline. And I wanted to hand it off to you here because I remember you did not keep up with all the Sins of Sinister stuff. I found it hard to keep up with it. I found myself stopping. I kind of stopped caring about a lot of it. So when I was reading this, I was like, oh, okay, I see how it all ties together again.
So I remember enough about that because, yeah, just like you, I kind of did a similar thing. Like I was reading it at first, and then I was like, all right, this is, but I never did finish any of them. So this character that ends up being taking a turn, a probably not surprising turn at some point, kind of is intertwined with this stuff and the Jean Grey miniseries that just ended, along with the Krakoans, like Agent 70 said. So I was like, okay, so basically this issue's got a couple of leftover revelations, because the revelations started in 16, in Immortal X-Men 16, and then there's a couple more here to kind of like, all right, here, just in case just in case you didn't, get the blanks filled in, then here's the rest of it. So yeah, we found out the whole Xavier thing, what was going on with him on Krakoa, like the refugees, all of that starts blending together, and who maybe is making the grand play here, I guess you could say.
Right.
And it happens to be that it may possibly be that, or it looks to be that character from Sins of Senator, which, like I said, kind of makes some sense. But I feel like,
and we see how, and what I appreciated about what Kieron Gillen did in this issue is that he had Sinister explain and refresh our memory as to how all these characters fit together. These characters that were introduced as part of Sins of Sinister.
Yes.
I appreciated that because I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Right. It's almost as if they say, it was like, nobody's going to remember all that. There was a lot happening, and even though it wasn't that long ago, there's a lot happening.
Right. A lot has happened since.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was great to have that be put out there like that.
Very helpful.
Yeah. So it seems like, Xavier's taking a trip with Sinister in his brain, which that gets kind of explained in here also. And, we're kind of bringing things to a place, put it that way, to a couple of places at that.
Right. And a line from the message, rings very, 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 very clearly in your mind, because I said it as soon as I read it.
Oh, the one you mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit about some broken glass.
Yes. I was also thinking, only well, that's a different song though, so never mind. But still applies.
Right.
That being said, we are going to go into let's see what we're going to do next. Amazing Spider-Man number 38.
So, Amazing Spider-Man number 38 is written by Zeb Wells with pencils by Ed McGuinness. Inks are by Mark Farmer, Wade von Grawbadger, and Ed McGuinness. There are sequences that tie into the upcoming, or now current, gang war story. And the art for that is by Emilio Laizo. And colors on that section are by Eric Arciniega. Colors on the main book are by Marcio Miniz, and letters are by VC's Joe, our favorite lettering paisan, Caramagna. So, kind of what I just described is the breakdown of this story. There is a very large section of the book dedicated to finally dealing with the limbo, the rest of the limbo story that Spidey's kind of touching on, if only tangentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what is the bulk of this story. I'd rather not talk about Rec Rap. I'd rather not deal with these characters. There's one reveal that I talked about with Roddykat that I was very interested to see, because I was like, oh, so that's what happened to that character.
Right.
I could not remember for the life of me what happened to that character. It was probably something that happened very quickly, kind of off to the, like as an aside. There's no way you remember it unless you're really reading it and like taking notes. Right. So I kind of appreciated, that callback. But at the same time, I'm honestly very much hoping that Zeb Wells gets off Spidey very soon. But that may not happen for a while.
No, with this gang war stuff, he's going to be on Spidey for a good while now.
Right. And when we talk about the first opening gang war issue, I'm also gonna bring up some issues I got with Zeb Wells. But at the end of the day, I see, I understand, right? Spidey is every writer's punching bag, right? That's it's like, how much hell can you put Peter Parker through?
Right.
So I get that. But in any event, just circling back to this, do you have anything to add on the main story?
So I was just going to say it's as if this last couple of issues were pretty much a filler arc, an anime filler arc, dealing with the whole anime stuff, and they're just like cleaning that up so we can get into the meat of things to going into gang war.
I guess. I don't necessarily see it as filler because that whatchamacallit, that dark web stuff was long.
Yeah, that doesn't. I feel like to me that doesn't make it any less filler though, because I don't see anything that came out of there outside of this, and even this wasn't all that,
right.
Whatever.
I mean, what we got was Limbo having like a consulate.
Sure. Sure, and however long that lasts. But the whole rec rap thing and repo, which that was so, I feel like that should have been so obvious, but at the same time, like just like Age of 7, it's like, okay, I wasn't thinking nothing about that dude. We knew something happened, but whatever. But that was like, okay, that's a little on the nose.
Right.
So at the same time I was like, oh, but also I was kind of upset about that. I'm like, that's a little too on the nose, and I should have caught that. But at the same time, I'm like, this stupid. Because I was honestly thinking, I was like, wait, is that like the Rose or something? And it's just he was in Herald or something. I'm like, no, it's just that dude. I'm like, oh.
No. So what did you think of what was happening in the gang war stuff in this issue?
I feel like
I was like, they did that. I'm like, they did that to Nefaria? What?
Yeah. Well, and we will probably get a little bit more on that as this thing goes by. But I'm like, that's interesting, but. Well, actually, yeah, Nefaria and Silvermane kind of got it as
only because I only mentioned it because I'm like, wait, I'm gonna have to pull out my my Ohatmu here because I thought Nefaria was a lot more powerful than that. Has he been depowered recently?
I feel like Nefaria hasn't been nefarious since like the last time he was in West Coast Avengers or something, or or in the Avengers or something. But I can't say that for certain.
Right.
But obviously,
I can't say I'm a Count Nefaria expert. So
same.
At the end of the day, At the end of the day, I'd have to look into that.
Right. And I'm not saying, it's not like he's like Hyperion or Superman or something like that. But we know he was, had stronger than average like power or things going about him. It was the whole Madame Mass thing, which we'll definitely get into a little bit more when in this week's books, if it was something.
Right.
But yeah, that whole thing was like, okay, so is this the opening salvo of this whole thing? No, that was just like, oh, we just set it up like this, and then we're just getting them out of the way.
Right. Okay. right. Because, and we're going to, lead into this week's Gang War book. So I guess we can transition that way.
Oh, we can definitely start getting into that way. The only thing I was going to say was like, this book was pretty much like paving the way for the First Strike book and putting some pieces into place that's going to affect that book more than this. So
yep. So what did you want to rapid fire last week's books now?
No, we'll do all the rapid fire. Yeah, later. We'll get to the.
Sounds good to me. All right, so we will transition now into this week's books that we have in common. Of course, I got to use the Spidey music. You want to lead with Gang War since that's where we are right now? Mm-hmm. So Amazing Spider-Man Gang War First Strike #1 is written by Zeb Wells and Cody Ziegler, our favorites, with art I say that with so much sarcasm. With art by Joey Vasquez with Julian Shaw, colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So when this book's subtitle, First Strike, when I read that, I was like, well, obviously, there is, a first blood drawn in most wars.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was it who I thought it was going to be? A little.
Really?
But I had a feeling it was going to be I don't want to spoil it. It was going to be that particular friend of Peter Parker's. I had a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it, but I wasn't expecting it. But yeah, I could see what happened.
I had a feeling. The character I did not expect was the one boss, the one criminal boss. I did not expect that right away. I was like, oh, snap. I thought that was a nice twist.
Right.
I thought that was very well done. I hate to give Wells and Ziegler any credit, but I like that twist.
Well, see, part of me was like, given the end of what we just discussed with Amazing Spider-Man 38, there was someone else that we never got to see that was behind things. So I kind of figured, I was like, well, that's not the end of this, and we're going to see that person again in here, which we don't, as far as I know.
Right.
So I was like, I don't know if, because, and the person that the Age of 70 is talking about was working with or / for those other two people that we mentioned. So it was kind of a wonder whether it was like, okay, so is what seems to be going on here the case, or is this other mystery person that came in at the end of the other issue is going to make their play here? Well, somebody did make a play here. Definitely, there's a couple of different plays that was going to end. As Agent 70 said, there was some bloodshed by a character. He saw more than I did, but it was like, yeah, you could see it, but I also didn't think they were actually going to do it type situation. But also not the first time him or a relative of his kind of got in the crossfire of such things.
Right.
So it makes sense, especially with what is how much noise this character has been making in this book with what they've been doing. So in that respect, I could definitely see them like, yeah, they're clearly going to do something, or they're going to do something, but Spidey's going to save the day, or something that's going to happen, blah 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 blah. But no, it's like, nope, a thing happened, folks.
Yep.
A couple of things happened in here. A couple of things happened in this book that pretty much started off. I don't know if you could put it into some opera, like a like a Godfather situation, but there's some moves been made, some plays been made, and as someone asked, which we knew was going to be the case, why is Shang-Chi here? I still ask that question.
Yeah.
Despite knowing, like, oh right, he's ahead of the 5 weapons, so sure. But also it was like, okay, they just kind of threw it in there. It was like, oh yeah, we got 5 weapons business here, so we're gonna do that. I'm like, I don't know if that needed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Shang-Chi is always going to find himself saying this.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Yeah.
Because I kind of conveniently forgot about the 5 Weapon Society being based in Manhattan. So when I saw that, I was like, oh.
Right.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was, I was kind of glad to see like that group that's in that was in that part of Chinatown that's been in Moon Knight be involved.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated that. I was like, oh, okay, good, a little synergy there.
Right, like that.
But I forgot about the Weapon Society.
Right, exactly, because like all this whole time where they've been setting up Gang War, we saw nothing until just was like, hey, haha, how you doing? But also in a similar fashion, this book kind of says, so it was like, okay, well, I guess we see what She-Hulk's going to have to do, because there was just a throwaway panel on a page of things kind of happening, and it was like, because we knew ahead of this who was going to be involved. So the Spideys make sense, Spidey and Peter make sense because it's there. Luke Cage makes sense; he's the mayor. Like I said, the whole Shang-Chi thing was kind of weird. I think Moon Knight's probably going to show up at some point. I can't remember if that was actually the case or not, but I think that is the case.
Well, you read the Luke Cage book, right?
I did read the Luke Cage book, yes.
Right, so you saw there's 2 kind of historically Spidey connected characters that show up.
Yes.
So they're not exactly advertised in any of the. They don't actually have any books. They're not headlining any of the books, but they're going to be involved.
Right.
So
which I think they came up in a poster. They showed up in a poster. So.
But did they? Okay.
I think so. And that one poster of all of them together with the bats and stuff, and like I said, but She-Hulk being there, that was kind of a mystery. But like I said, there's a panel that might explain that, but it's kind of like Shang-Chi. It's like, why, what, huh?
Right.
So that being said, First Strike, hey, if you've been keeping track of Amazing Spider-Man and the lead up to this whole Gang War stuff, you will find something there.
Right.
Yeah, that's all.
So we can actually talk about the Gang War issues that we read. I did read that Luke Cage one, so if you wanted to hit that real quick.
Yeah, sure, why not? That's from this week.
Because we do have that in common. I just don't have it on my list.
Yeah. Let me pull up the cover for that. We could do that. I was just gonna save that for what you call it, but it makes sense though. Because not have to worry. Because
I'll talk about the Spider-Woman one. Just in very brief terms. So but just to keep them all grouped together.
Okay. Well, while you do, I will, since I got it up here. Unless you have the credits
for
Luke Cage.
For Luke Cage, I do not. Go ahead.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so Gang War Luke Cage #1 is written by Rodney Barnes, with art by Ramon E. Box, colors by Andrew Dahlhaus, and letters by BC's Travis Lanham. So I don't. Was there a checklist for Gang War? I don't remember seeing one.
There is. There is a reading list.
Okay. So that being said, I feel like we read this in the order that was probably intended to, with Luke Cage coming after both of the Amazing Spider-Man books.
Right.
Right.
Because November 2023 has Gang War First Strike, Luke Cage, and Spider-Woman.
Okay. So okay, good. But it doesn't seem like those are connected as directly as you would want to believe they should be.
Right.
Although Luke Cage has been showing up in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man, so that's not saying, and he has been in there, so it's not out of the ordinary that he would be showing up here. And plus, he's the mayor of New York anyway, so it's not like saying it's got to be like a 1-to-1 direction. It's like, no, he's here because this is his thing. But basically, Luke's like, and I'm trying to figure out when this takes place, because a certain person in a Spidey side character shows up, and I can't remember if this is, or it doesn't seem to connect as to being before or after the First Strike book.
Right. It seems like it's, well, if there's one thing that's weird, there's a Spidey supporting character. It's just J. Jonah, right? I'm like, wait, why is J. Jonah acting like that? Did the editor not tell Rodney Barnes?
Yeah, or they just needed old J. Jonah for this, for some
a little
reason.
Yeah, just for that, right? Just for that, right? But I kind of bumped on that. So
no, I get it. I get that. Yeah, because it could have messed me for a second, but it was like, okay, they just needed him to be old Jonah for a minute. So,
right. So there's one story. Right. So obviously this is a highlight on Luke Cage's activities during this whole gang war thing. There's one I bumped on Jonah, and I also bumped on a new Marvel Legend figure for Luke Cage. I was like, what kind of terrible costume design is this?
Yeah. I'm not feeling it too, but I can also understand why he has that one. Because I saw another version of that suit, and it was like, what does he need armor for? He's bulletproof. But also this article, this book kind of mentions, they don't even go into that, but why he could wear some, given something that happened in the book.
He should wear something very different from his usual attire.
Correct.
That's really what it comes down to. But I was looking at it, I was like, ew. But
yeah. It's function over form. It's function over fashion, basically.
Over no fashion, over bad fashion.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So for those who don't know, like I said, Luke Cage is the mayor of New York. The previous mayor, who was the kingpin, put a law in place to where there should be there are no superheroes active in New York City. That's the short straw of it. And Luke being the mayor can't really do much about it unless it gets voted out, and that's what they've been kind of trying to do, and that's what a certain other character's kind of been trying to drum up support for in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man. But this is Luke Cage, who is a street level hero, but a hero nonetheless. And they even evoked the name Heroes for Hire in his, when he was talking to his boy Danny Rand, the former Iron Fist.
Oh, I got so annoyed reading that. I was like, stupid Swordmaster. Anyway.
Yeah, that should have been paid. But anyway, so this pretty much issue is Luke trying to deal with the fact that like, well, this law is still in place, but he still wants to do more, do stuff for the city, and gets kind of hemmed up by that law. Although the way he got hemmed up, I'm sitting here like, I could make you eat that gun, dude. One, I'm the mayor and can't have you fired, and two, I could make you eat that thing for pointing it at me. But
it's silly,
right? So we pretty much, and I think the only other reason why I'm thinking this may or may not be after the first strike is because the last page of First Strike, Spider-Man pretty much says, "Hey, I need to get a team together." Now I don't know if that's what brought this book in. I mean, brought this up, or whether that was a thing that was happening in conjunction with. Because, like I said, we don't know when this book is happening in relation to First Strike. We just know things have just popped off in both books.
Right. Anyway, all right. So the other Gang War book that came out this week was Spider-Woman #1. It's written by Steve Fox with art by Carola Borelli, colors by Arif Prianto, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. There are two things of note in this issue. One is that Spider-Woman has been tasked with dealing with like a particular character that we have become familiar with through the Luke Cage Netflix series. And two, the ongoing mystery as to a former very prominent supporting character in the Spider-Woman books is still ongoing. And I'll leave it at that.
Yes. Which brings me back to something I probably have said before, but I kind of hate when there are new books wrapped up in events.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's good and or bad enough that they kind of go through books that you're reading, whether you're interested in that event or not. But books coming out of events, like granted, we've seen apparently Savage Avengers saw great effect from that nobody was asking for, and that Star Wars Bounty Hunters book, but but Spider-Woman, who we know is going to be a part of this, I feel like, and granted, I only, as Agent 70 know, I only kind of had a chance to kind of like glance through the book real big, so I
which is why I kept things very, very spoiler light.
Right. So it's like, okay, so I see this, and if we already knew she had one agenda going for her, that she dressed in the beginning of this, I was like, okay, but the two don't seem together is what brings me to this, or my problem with it. I'm like, okay, having her in here, great. Having her for Gang War, sure, okay. But she's got this other thing she's trying to do that has seemingly nothing to do with this, unless they're trying to tie that into it some kind of way, which they probably are. And that's kind of upsetting.
Yeah, I feel like wasn't there like a limited series, or was she in a limited series because of End of the Spider-Verse? Is that what it was?
She was. She was in the Spider-Verse.
Right, and that's where all this stuff came about, right? Or just after that? It was after that.
After that, because matter of fact, because the last time we saw her prior to this was in like in Amazing Spider-Man, setting this up.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah. That being said, hey, I'm glad Justice got another book for as long as it lasts. Yep. But we'll see how this all works out. It's not Carla Pacheco, as we have said. So some of the fun of that book is probably may or may not be here. But like I said, we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. All right. What else do we have in common from this week?
What did we say? Oh, last book, I guess. Well, technically, this last book we said we were going to do before we get hit rapid was X-Men Blue Origins #1.
Yes, yeah, that's why I said blue. Okay.
Yeah.
X-Men Blue Origins #1 is written by Cy Spurrier, with art by Wilton Santos with Orange Junior Inks and Marcus Toe. Colors by, I'm just fixing a typo in the credits. Colors by CC De La Cruz and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So if you thought Mystique was limited in what she could transform into, You were sorely, sorely, sorely mistaken. That is the crux. That is the fulcrum on which this story turns. And something that we thought we understood is, for whatever reason, actually clarified even further.
Right.
Retconned away, as this has been, kind of an adventure into the origins of one fuzzy blue elf and one very blue woman with a very annoying blind precog lover.
The hate.
I'm a little under the weather, folks. You can hear it in my voice. I've got, a lozenge in my throat. I can still spew the vitriol when it comes to this particular character.
Yes. So, to bring it on home really quick, if you've been reading Uncanny Spider-Man, and which X-Men book was it? Was it Immortal? I can't remember. But basically, this book catches up to everything that happened to Mystique since the Hellfire Gala. And her showing up in Uncanny Spider-Man #1. In fact, the last issue of Uncanny Spider-Man kind of ends with saying, well, close to the end, they're saying, hey, and they do talk in this book.
Right.
So, and right before that, before it goes back into where that book is going. So so if you have read that particular issue, you will see some familiar text out of that going into this. But yeah, basically, Nightcrawler's already slightly convoluted backstory has, as Agent 7 said, been retconned very much more. This book was billed as a major change to his origin. That remains to be. I mean, is and isn't, but
right.
But
it's a modification more than anything.
Right.
It's not a big change. It's just a modification.
Right. It's more of a bigger change to Mystique than Nightcrawler's part in this.
Right.
As Agent 70 said. So it's like, okay, I get the Nightcrawler part of this, because I thought they were just going to be like, okay, no, you're not, but you are, actually, well, I guess that was kind of the case. So yeah, his origin's already kind of weird as it is, but they're just kind of packing things up a little bit more and tying them to Mystique and Destiny, put it that way. That's kind of a spoiler, but kind of not. But you don't know what way that is until you read this book. And that's pretty much what this is. This is actually, weird enough, a potential click of the week for me, because I wasn't expecting that to be the case. Because I was like, yeah, like 87 said, we kind of knew a lot of this already if you've kept up with Nightcrawler's origin, as silly as it is, but it's also X-Men and / comics. But how this is going to affect his other sibling,
right?
I don't know if that changes much, because they kind of brushed on that for like 5 seconds before coming out of the end of this. So it doesn't seem like that changes much, but they just focused on Mystique and her, I guess, her potential mutant status, I guess, because they did drop the whole, I mean, they kind of dropped the fact that she could be approaching a mega level even with her abilities in here.
Right.
So I guess that is a new thing for her, if that being the case. And like I said, the revelations that happen in here with what she can do with herself, which I think they kind of teased in either Uncanny Spider-Man. Actually, I think they did in that last Uncanny Spider-Man book. So yeah, I don't know. Wait, is this a book or is this just this one shot? Because I don't know if I caught that part.
I think this is a one shot coming out of that Uncanny Spider-Man book.
Okay, because it didn't seem like there was anything else that could actually come from this.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense. Now, granted, could they have put all of this in that book? Yes. Could they?
Yeah.
Could they have gotten the $4.99 that they wanted to get, or the $3 or the $4.99 that they wanted to get out of this for that? Maybe not. And I know that's a kind of a crass way of saying it, but let's face it, that's kind of feel like, even though it was interesting read, but I'm like, yeah, I feel like that this could have been done in that book.
Right.
That being said, I think we are done with the stuff we have together in this.
Yeah, I think it's time to spin up the rapid fire review minigun and get things rolling. Here we go.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, so I only have one more book from last week. That is Nightwing number 108. It's written by Tom Taylor, with art by Stephen Byrne, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Wes Abbott. I'm only going to focus on the main story, that being kind of a coming together, finally coming together between Nightwing's former girlfriend slash very much a main squeeze when he was acting under the influence of a bullet in his brain. And the reveal that this character has a very secret past that is coming to light right now. So we're really learning about this character and how she relates to Nightwing now, as opposed to how she related to him way back when. So it's a pretty interesting read. Lots of fun layouts. I know that Redondo is not doing the art on this one, but Stephen Byrne continues in that fun layout idea, putting in fun ideas for laying out pages. Nightwing is still a fun read. I think this is an important issue just to kind of refresh everyone's memory on this one character and see how they're building up this character into a different status quo. Now we go into this week's books for me. First up is Titans Beast World number 1 of 6. It's written by Tom Taylor with pencils by Ivan Rice, inks by Danny Mickey, colors by Brad Anderson, and letters by Wes Abbott. This is the first issue of this crossover miniseries, but this being the main miniseries of the book, miniseries of the crossover. I think it was pretty effective at telling a good story. I bumped on this one guest appearance of a character who I'd never seen before. I quite literally, when I was reading this, quite literally said this very much out loud. Here we go. Looking for my sound effect now. Who? I said it out loud. Shout out to Jaimin Hansu, right? But other than bumping on that, I thought it was a pretty good story. Next up is Captain America number 3. It's written by J. Michael Straczynski, with art by Jesus Saiz and Lan Medina, colors by Matt Hollingsworth, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, our favorite lettering paisan. This is a candidate for Click of the Week for me for this week, because I'm really very much enjoying Straczynski's take on integrating elements of the MCU Captain America story into the 616 Marvel Comics origin of Captain America. I like it. There's a little bit of a supernatural twist to the enemy that he's facing. I don't know how comfortable I am with that, especially when dealing with Captain America stories, but it wouldn't be the first time, right? So, but I did very much like how this story played out and where this is going.
I was about to say,
next up,
not even currently, if you think about that Howling, the Catwolf book that's out right now.
Right. Excuse me. Next up, Ms. Marvel, the New Mutant number 4 is written by Iman Vellani and Sabir Pirzada. Art by Carlos Gomez and Adam Gorham. Colors by Eric Arciniega. And letters again by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. This is the last issue of this Ms. Marvel miniseries. We're seeing lots of Ms. Marvel, though, in the X books. This issue, though, focuses on how she is dealing with, this particular group of Orcus operatives that are looking specifically for her. And I like how it plays out. There is a little bit of a Cap speech by Bruno. I'm not spoiling anything by it, but it's very much a Cap-esque speech. So when Roddykat gets around to it, he will recognize that right away.
I did.
Okay. And that's it for me.
Alrighty then. I'm trying to clean out some thing that I just did, so hopefully that'll help. As I get into my books from last week, with I had confused my own thing. That's great. Wait, where is?
Good work.
I know, right? Wonderful. Yep. Okay, I'm right. Star Trek number, and I don't know why this thing keeps going back to last week, but that's fine. Star Trek number 14 starts off my books with written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, art by Marcus Toe, colors by Lee Luffridge, and letters by Clayton Cowles. This is a potential click of the week for myself. I guess that probably is no surprise if you've been hanging around here long enough. But so yeah, they have managed to make Harry Kim from Voyager badass, which is a thing that was not happening when the show was on the air. So it's they even say as much in this book, but basically there's a whole thing with trying to calm down some Zenkethi. Well, basically, the Zenkethi are I guess becoming warp capable. I think they already were, but they're basically building up more proper. And it seems like they may have gotten help by the Romulans, to which we find out in the course of this issue, because Cisco and a crew goes down to the Zenkethi homeworld and I guess end up in a, not necessarily a contest of champions, but definitely in a contest for the, let's say, the affections of the Zenkethi high priests. Like, who's going to gain the favor from this, as we find out. And what we found out is this Romulan is quite formidable, but I don't think it's someone we've ever met in any of the shows before. So that is a whole thing. But this book still continues to be pretty good. Next up is Void Rivals number 6. There we go. Written by one Robert Kirkman, with art by Lorenzo De Felici, colors by Matthias Lopez. I'm not sure which one that is, but letters by Russ Wooten. So, there's some things that happen that's going on here, but basically the main thing that people probably care about at this point is that yes, this is still bridging. This is still a part of the Energon universe, and there are some aspects of the Transformer universe that are still here. In fact, seeming to be made to be a little more closer to let's just say the origins of the two warring factions that are present in this book. And also there's an escape that happens, but that are folks that are trying to get under control, because there's a secret that our two main people have about their respective societies that the powers that be don't want to get out. But again, in this issue, another revelation might be coming to pass about both of their origins, if what they're seeming to be setting up is the case. Hence with what I just said about the folks from the Transformers universe. So, and it sounds like there may be another Cybertronian might come into play, but one that I've never heard of before, but we shall see. But unfortunately, Void Rivals, the next issue of Void Rivals is not coming out until March. So that's going to be fun. Trying to remember what happened here then.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's what it said in the back of the book.
Dang.
Because, and the reasoning was because this month, the next couple of books that are coming out are the G.I. Joe, the setting up the G.I. Joe stuff, and letting the Transformer stuff breathe a little bit more. So yeah, so that is why they're giving before this book, because it's pretty much done. I guess the heavy lifting it was going to do, setting up this thing in the first place. So I guess that makes sense, but still. Next up though, Star Wars Dark Droids D Squad number 3. Excuse me. Written by Mark Guggenheim with art by Salva Espin, color artist Israel Silva, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So this is just continuing that whole R2's putting together a squad because he wants to try to save 3PO from this whole corruption that Scourge is doing. And R2 ends up with this motley crew that he has come across. Not necessarily a squad, but this motley crew of cyborgs and droids that he's come across, and taking them to a Clone Wars place to meet an old crush of his, and that reunion may be short-lived, as the folks that are after R2 and trying to quiet him from doing what he's trying to do is after all of them, and may have kind of cut that reunion short. But this is also, hey, R2 and them found out that they may have to go to Jabba's palace, and if you've been keeping up with other parts of Dark Droids, Jabba's palace has already got problems from this corrupted set of droids. So, we'll see how that plays out. Sensational She-Hulk number 2 is next, and I know Agent 70 is going to read this at some point, so I won't spoil too much about it. But the main book is written by Rainbow Rowell. The backup story is written by Bobby Wilson, with art by Andreas Genolette for the first story and David Cutler for the second. And all of the colors, the color artistry is being done by D. Cuniff, and the lettering by VC's Joe Caramagna for the whole book. So the first the main story is, and if you're watching the video version, you can see the cover. The Hulk drops by, which we found out at the end of the last issue, so that's no surprise to Agent 70 anyway. Right. But he's dropping by for a reason that becomes clear, because he thinks one thing and Jen knows nothing about it, but the reason why those folks are coming together comes very clear and has something to do with something that happened in the last volume of She-Hulk, let's just say. That has come back to play. And the backup story has to do with She-Hulk and one former love interest of hers, Wyatt Wingfoot. Yeah.
Flashback.
Yeah. And of course, just like old times, Wyatt and She-Hulk getting into trouble with an old FF antagonist from another dimension that kind of comes to cause some trouble. That gets resolved in a quite interesting way, I would say, for what normally would happen in one of a book like this. And that's all I'll say about that. Avengers Inc. number 3, potential click of the week for myself, because I've still been loving this book. Written by Al Ewing, penciled by Leonard Kirk, inks by Leonard Kirk and Bellardino Bravo, and color artist Alex Sinclair, with letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So apparently, Agent 70, if he plans on reading this book, may want to take note, and it does say in this book that this takes place during Immortal Thor number 1, apparently.
Okay.
So, and Agent 70 kind of knows part of this because I believe you did read issue 2. So, the executioner has died, and he was already dead.
Right.
This goes into solving that case, and you won't believe who is behind it and why. And
really?
Yes.
Is it going to be a...
Kinda, and it also may be seeming to tie into what is going on in Immortal Thor, possibly.
Okay. Interesting.
Possibly, but I will let you read that for yourself. They even evoke they evoke the words of an old Thor book for a reason. But yeah, and at the end of this book, some I will say this part, the rogues gallery of a certain archer shows up at the end of this book for a reason that this crew is uniquely qualified to take care of, I guess. And that on something that I totally forgot that happened. So yeah. Last book from last week for me is Uncanny Spider-Man #4. There's actually, as I pull up the thing here, there we go. Written by Cy Spurrier, art by Lee Garbett, color artist Matt Miller, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Outside of possibly having the title for this week's Comic Book Chronicles in its pages, this pretty much goes the way of serving, getting us to the previously talked about X-Men Blue Origins in a way. Like, he still got his own thing going on with him and Sybil Sable. Sybil Saber kind of got their thing going on, but they're on opposite sides, and that is coming to a head in this because there are a couple of sudden but inevitable betrayals happening here that are going to play out next issue. There is one question that is in this book and that Blue Origins, X-Men Blue Origins book that has still not been answered, and that is who the hell are the little imaginary furry devils that are on Nightcrawler's shoulders.
Right.
So if you're looking for that, you're still not going to get that. You said you did your books for this week, right?
Yep.
All right, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures continued. Start off my books for this week. There we go. Excuse me. Story by Egg Burnham, art by Sarah Meyer, letters by Egg Dukeshire, and colors by Luis Antonio Delgado. Which, yes, that is the order that they had that in the book, somehow, weirdly enough. Shredder's still trying to continue his plan about getting the sword, a sword that he's trying to get made out of this meteorite that he's found, but he needs someone to construct it, and he also needs this. Apparently, he finds out he needs this one sword hilt it can't be reproduced anymore. So he, thanks to what is going on in New York at the time, which is about Christmas time, and a certain convention that there was had called SantaCon that apparently New York was trying to outlaw here, Shredder came up with the plan of replacing one con for the other, but that other con seemed like it was the Purge, but around Christmas time, as I put it in my notes. And of course, the Turtles kind of catch wind of this and try to do something about it. Did they? Read and find out. Next up, James Bond. Why do you keep going back? There we go. James Bond 007 for King and Country number 7 of 7, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, with art by Alessio Avallone, colors by Claudia Gulani, and letters by Jeff Eckleberry. So as I said, this is the last issue of this book, and this kind of ends this volume to the close. The whole premise was that if you've played Metal Gear Solid, some of this is going to be familiar with you. Nanotech a PMC pretty much trying to take over the world, but one of Bond's former cohorts who had already been burned and thought dead that he had come across during the course of this thing, basically tries to take over things, and Bond going to stop her, having found out that wow, she wasn't the person that he thought she was, or something like that. But yeah, there is that. It's a pretty good read. I know there is a new volume coming up next month, actually, and I don't think the same writer or creative team is going to be a part of this. But yeah, those books have been fun so far. Darkwing Duck number 10. Oops. Oh, what happened there? You okay?
Oh, just quick cough.
Gotcha. Also, I forgot there's a book that Agent 70 from last week that I both of us forgot to read, and there was the Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars Battle World book. Yeah, I was kind of thumbing through that, and there's an interesting tidbit in the first couple of pages. So it's like, oh man, I remember that. I see they tried to evoke that. That's pretty good. Anyway, Darkwing Duck number 10, script by Amanda Daybert. Art and colors by Carlo Lauro, and letters by Jeff Eckleberry. So this is Darkwing's team up with the Justice Duck as they try to find, to look for the missing launch pad and his compass. They end up, as I say in my notes, Darkwing Duck does the most shocking thing imaginable. And if you know anything about the character, you'll understand why this is shocking. He asks for help. So... which leads to, the team come together, but they're, down in Atlantis, or Ducklantis as they call it, and pretty much wrap up things there. Darkwing with the help of his friends, going into whatever the book goes into next. So that was a cool read. Static Shadows of Dakota number 7 of 7. There we go. Boop. Written by Nicholas Draper Ivy and Vita Ayala, with art by Nicholas Draper Ivy and letters by And World Design. So yeah, this is the last issue of this book, which starts off with a flashback from the past, and the person who ends up being the big bad of this whole thing, or of this whole arc, which I guess was someone that Static met in the first issue, and I totally forgot because it's been like months since all of that happened. But also there's a team up with Eben, who's been an antagonist here in this thing, but they kind of come into an understanding coming out of this. Yeah, but still a pretty decent read. But if this seems like one of those books that, if you have all 7 books together, it's probably a better read that way. So, and I believe that's technically it. There was a couple of other books that we didn't talk about that, but in the interest of time, that is it for me. Kliqs of the week.
Kliqs of the week.
Because we didn't talk about Invincible, Invincible Iron Man, which I did read, but that's, I feel like the next issue would be although there was a couple of good things in that issue that was kind of funny, but it was kind of one of those, as interesting as it is to watch.
Got it.
Type situations.
All right. So for last week, I think I'm going to go with Immortal X-Men number 17.
Pretty good choice. I mean, yeah.
Because there's a lot going on in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
some threads come together.
Right, and for this week, I'll probably go with Captain America number 3.
Okay. Why is it that I cannot find any of these covers? Weird. Anyway, okay, so there's Immortal, and there is Captain America for him. And for Dirt, PC_Dirt, who I'm going to go ahead and count it for him anyway, because I don't think he did say. And that was just a side note. Yeah, Star Trek number 14 for him for last week, and that's pretty much the only one that we're gonna credit him for this one. I kind of almost want to go with him on that, but not entirely sure. I think what I'm actually going to go with though is yeah, I'll go with Avengers Inc. for Avengers Inc. number 3 for last week. And boy, I'm going to have a devil of a time trying to remember all of this stuff to put in the notes. But for this week, we are going to go with I thought I already said actually. Did not. You know, it's kind of a toss up between X-Men Blue Origins number 1 and Amazing Spider-Man Gang War First Strike. And that is a weird thing to say. Given about how much yang we just talked about both of those books. Gang War, yeah. Amazing Spider-Man Gang War First Strike is going to be the one that gets it, I guess. Because yeah, what happens in there, I need to see how they're gonna handle that. And with that, folks, is the end of the books. We're going to go into the news real quick, but first an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us, that's cspn.us, then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today! Hello. And now we get into the news.
Cinematic news, as we do about this time. Uh-oh. I'll have to put that in for next week. That's interesting. Here we go. Iman Vellani reveals that Kamala Khan's mutant status almost didn't make the final cut in the Ms. Marvel TV series. And that's what this article pretty much goes, but I will say this quote from her saying, "The hardest part was when we were filming it," Vellani explained. "First of all, I couldn't keep it together. Every time Matt Lentz would say mutation, which still makes me giddy every time I say the word, I would just break." So I'm pretty sure there's probably some stuff on that. She was on some podcast. Oh, excuse me. It was an interview with this site's podcast, comicbook.com. So yeah, there you go. You can read more about that in the article. Next up.
Alrighty, so Iman Vellani got out and started talking about the lower box office receipts for the Marvels, as it seems unlikely that the Marvels will make even 100 million at the domestic box office at this point. Whether or not it makes up its entire budget with worldwide, I think that's likely, but it's not going to make too much money. So ultimately, she's basically saying, several different things. It's not all, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day for her. It's, what's the point? That's for Bob Iger, the head of Disney.
Right. She was basically like, look, I did my thing. We had fun. And that was the thing. So
right.
Let the bean counters handle that, I guess. Next up, though, there was one comic book movie that Ms. Marvel's Iman Vellani refuses to watch, and it's one that's probably not that big of a surprise to anyone. X-Men Dark Phoenix. Next up. Hello?
No, I didn't. I was just looking at that.
Oh,
that's interesting. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse screenplay. You can. All right, so I guess you can read Across the Spider-Verse's screenplay. It's available.
Yeah, they put it online. Lord and Miller put it online, which I like when they do when folks do that, because sometimes people like to see that stuff. So
okay, yeah. Next up.
Come on, here we go.
You know, there's an art to making a perfect gingerbread house. And my grandma, she taught me when I was like your age.
What? Yeah, well, my grandma taught me too.
All right, let's get started.
Oh, god damn it! I hate.
That was you, okay?
Yeah.
Because I opened the next that out.
Hold on a second.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I thought it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's weird that should have happened. That should not have happened. Dave Filoni has been promoted to Chief Creative Officer at Lucasfilm, so now he's got the keys to the kingdom. Probably rightfully so. Let's see. But yeah, he was talking to Vanity Fair and he opened up about his new job, saying, in the past, and a lot of projects I would be brought into, I would see it after it had already been developed in good ways. In his new roles, it's opened up to basically everything. It's opened up to basically everything that's going on. When we're planning the future of what we're doing now, I'm involved at the inception phase. So the Filoni-verse is real and actual now. Next up.
There is a documentary about the infamous 1978 Star Wars Holiday Special, and now we have a release date. So it's going to arrive in December. So after it premiered at this year's South by Southwest Film Festival, A Disturbance in the Force will be released on digital and Blu-ray on December 5th. So this announcement comes on Life Day, a canonically Wookiee holiday in the Star Wars universe. It's also going to play in select theaters across the US, UK, and Australia ahead of its home entertainment launch. Listen, I'm not exactly raring to go to watch this. So, if you are, good for you.
Yeah,
it's actually a comical behind-the-scenes documentary.
I mean, as was the holiday special, so that checks out. Yeah, I remember seeing that thing. I remember actually Mark Hamill said recently, it was like I think it was asked, what's the best thing about the holiday special? He was like, the end credits.
There it is.
Yeah, so that tells you enough, and he was there in it. Doctor Who shakes up writers' payment after Disney Plus boards BBC sci-fi series. So yeah, as folks know, the Doctor Who is going to be on Disney Plus fairly soon, actually. And the catalog's already been out there on other places, but it's coming to Disney Plus here in the States, which is the thing. And apparently, let's see, Deadline understands the Doctor Who writers' contract deals were struck prior to the WGA resolution, which came 2 months ago. Residuals were a key sticking point in those negotiations between WGA and the AMPTP. And the Guild's eventual deal included increased streaming residuals and viewership-based streaming bonuses. And this article kind of goes on with that. And I won't because there's a little bit to it. But yeah. Next up.
So DC Studios has cast actress Maria Gabriela De Faria as Authority member Angelica Spica, aka the Engineer, in James Gunn's Superman Legacy. So the Engineer is not necessarily going to be the villain, but if you're familiar with the Authority and how they interact with Superman when they finally merge the Wildstorm and DC universe, you kind of get an idea they might be antagonistic with each other.
Okay, sure. I don't know much about the Authority, so sure. Max announces removal of 10 DC superhero animated movies. Probably as I've looked at this list, half of which most of you above a certain age is not watching, because there's a lot of the Lego stuff and the DC Superheroes Girls stuff. And apparently a Teen Titans Go and Superhero Girls crossover movie that happened.
They're going over to Netflix.
Yes, all of these. Yes, mostly everything is going over to Netflix. Teen Titans Go sees Space Jam. I guess that is the thing also. So yeah, you have until the end of December to watch any of these movies that I've just blew past. If you're watching the video version, so before they go elsewhere. Next up.
So Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime, is set to be honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award on December 17th, and he's going to be honored by the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. That's cool.
Rightly deserved. Also, going back to our Invincible discussion, he also was on the last episode of that. And if you know his voice is unmistakable if you've heard him play Optimus Prime or watch Voltron.
Right.
Because he sounds like more of the Voltron character.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely heard Days of Long Ago.
Exactly. And I was like, oh, wow. See, if they had done that as opposed to the narrator that it did get, then that would have been perfect. But I see what they had going on to it. But I was giggling when I was listening to him. I was like, he's just about to bust into the Voltron thing. But like I said, good on him. Shout out Prime and every other thing that you've done. Next up, so I thought this was a joke when I first saw this. The Boys Mexico spinoff is in the works at Amazon from Blue Beetle writer Gareth Dennett Alcazar, Diego Luna, and Gael Garcia Bernal. Because I saw this on Twitter, not from Deadline. And I was like, and then I saw a couple of jokes underneath, the tweet that I saw. But apparently it's a real deal. That is seems to be a thing. But yeah, Diego Luna and Gael Garcia Bernal are set to executive produce and are considering taking on acting roles, though neither would be major roles according to sources shared with Deadline. So yeah, another The Boys spinoff is apparently happening. Next up.
The Alien TV series has added Timothy Oliphant and his great hair. According to Deadline, the upcoming Alien spinoff from Fargo showrunner Noah Hawley will see the pair reteam for the sci-fi horror series. Oliphant will star opposite Sydney Chandler, who plays Wendy, a hybrid metahuman with the body of an adult and the brain consciousness of a child. Oliphant himself will play a character called Kirsch, a synth and mentor to Chandler's Wendy. Okay.
And probably will have a gun and shoot somebody.
Of course.
Fallout first look. Apparently there was there's a Fallout TV show happening at Amazon, I believe it is. Yes, Amazon Prime, and it is going to debut on April 12th. Apparently this is Jonathan Nolan, aka the brother of Christopher, is the one writing this jobby. And there was a first look that Vanity Fair has gotten to take a look at that. So for folks that don't know, Fallout is a video game series of some note to some folks, highly regarded by some that I know of at least. So Kyle MacLachlan is in it and Ella Purnell. So yeah, amongst others. But you can check that out in the show notes. Next up.
All right, next up, the new Godzilla show that we just spoke about, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters is the full title, broke a MonsterVerse Rotten Tomatoes record. So apparently it scored an impressive 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, making it certified fresh. And I think that's well-deserved.
It's a good show. They didn't put the music on, but it's a good show. Speaking of said MonsterVerse, Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire drops mysterious new teaser trailer ahead of CCXP. So this is the next movie in that MonsterVerse / MonarchVerse series. And the teaser we got says something is covered with a big handprint that looks like probably could be King Kong's. Or probably not. We don't know. I don't know. But regardless, that teaser is out there. And I guess we'll get more of that as time goes, or more on this project as time goes by. Next up.
This is old news.
Oh, and there's also anime news.
Right, but this is old news. This is from September of 2023.
Is it? Wait, did I? Oh, yeah. Well, you can skip it. Well,
all right.
Oh, wait, did we do this one already? Actually, I don't remember.
Yeah, we did it already.
Okay, I couldn't remember. So there's a couple of them actually that are like that because I was like, I don't remember if we did that one. So you can skip that one.
Okay. What about the solo leveling?
No, we didn't. No.
Okay, solo leveling English dubcast officially announced. Why does this matter to either of us? Because we don't watch the dubs, but we, it's news.
Hey, somebody does though. So yeah, there's some notable folks as a dub here. So to those that matter to. I'm looking forward to solo leveling because I've been reading the manga and it's I would waiting to see the adaptation of it. If you want to go ahead and spin up the I mean it was kind of late, but throw an anime.
Oh, no, of course. The transition. There we go.
Agent 7 is absolutely going to make that purchase we talked about before the show. I can see it already.
Sooner or later.
Sports romantic comedy manga Blue Box gets anime adaptation. I have not heard of this one, but this might appeal to somebody, I'm sure. It's a romantic comedy / sports manga, according to this, by Kuji Miura, excuse me. And who is doing? Well, we got a cast here. Who's doing animation? Doesn't necessarily say, but this was a manga from Shueisha's weekly Shonen Jump manga from back in April 2021. There's 12 volumes, and I'm sure someone knows about this and probably freaking out about it. Next up.
Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy anime reveals additional cast for season 2. Yeah, there's a bunch of actors here listed. Unfamiliar with them all, but if you're interested in finding out who's going to join this particular party, which is what the article says, ahead of the January 2024 premiere, take a look at it.
Yeah. Gurren Lagann anime films to get first U.S. theatrical screenings in January 2024, which I believe is the only missing piece of the puzzle that we didn't have about that particular thing. So let's see. Childhood's End and The Lights in the Sky Are Stars will have subbed and dubbed screenings on January 16th and 17th. Excuse me, and January 23rd and 24th, respectively. This will be the first time the films have received an English language dub. Of course, Fathom Events tickets are going to go on sale through Fathom Events starting December 8th. And if you want to, I feel like you probably already know if you want to watch Gurren Lagann, which I have not finished, so maybe I will one day. Next up.
Shonen Jump's most underrated manga finally will get an anime adaptation that is Dandadan or Dandadan is a criminally underrated manga apparently under the Shonen Jump label, and it's set to finally receive an anime adaptation sometime in 2024. Okay.
Yeah. And last up in the anime corner, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 announces a new episode delay. So, let's see.
They needed to delay it.
Yeah, there's been the hubbub. It turns out that the network airing of season 2, episode 19 will go down as planned. What just happened? Oh, so you doing that thing. I'm so glad I turned off the sound. Okay, yeah, information comes straight from Mappa Studios, which is that Oh, here we go. Episode 19 will be broadcast on 13th today, actually. Excuse me. As we record this, Thursday, November 30th will be changed. Expected delivery after the change. Distribution begins every Friday from 6 o'clock. The post ends, according to this. According to this article. So, and they had to go back and say, hey, it sounds like episode 18 had a delay. And now this week's. So there you go, folks. If you're looking forward to that this week's, next up, we go over into the comic book news.
So it's dropping tomorrow and Friday instead.
That's what it sounds like from what that article says. Yeah.
Okay. It's not that big a difference. I know some people schedule their whole lives around it though. So
yeah, and a lot of people weren't going to be able to get to it until this weekend anyway. So
right.
But okay. Comic book news.
All right. So no manga?
No.
All right. All right. So in celebration of Marvel Studios' X-Men 97, a follow-up to the classic 90s X-Men, coming soon to Disney Plus, Marvel's hottest artists are showing their love for the decade in new Marvel 97 variant covers. So on sale throughout February, these new covers capture the essence of the blockbuster era from the 90s. And yeah, you know what? Just enjoy the covers.
Yeah, what he said. Which, hey, they look good. So, Spider-Boy goes head-to-head with Miles Morales this February, because that's the perfect time to do that. Spider-Boy number 4 hinges on the new nickname given to Bailey Briggs Spider-Boy, which is somewhat tragically Boy Spider. That moniker calls to down to yada 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 yada. Basically, the Miles and Spider-Boy are going to gonna square up for some odd reason and probably end up teaming up for something. Who knows? But that's February. Next up.
So we've got some news on Marvel's 2024 Free Comic Book Day titles. And there's going to be a first taste of Blood Hunt, some Blade stuff, a prelude to the X-Men's new era, and more, including Spider-Man and the Ultimate Universe #1, Blood Hunt / X-Men #1. There's going to be a Marvel's Voices #1, Star Wars Darth Vader #1, Spidey and His Amazing Friends #1, which looks really cool. And that's pretty, that's a nice, diverse offering from Marvel on Free Comic Book Day.
Mm-hmm. And if you watched the video version of this program, you saw me flipping, scrolling through all of those covers. Look good. Next up, though, if you thought that Miss Marvel, the New Mutant, was going to be the end of Iman, Vellani, and Sabir Pirzada's comic book run, you are mistaken, because apparently this creative team will return for Miss Marvel Mutant Menace this March. So, which is good, because from what I skimmed through, it seemed like an ending, but one that seemed like it could be some more coming behind it. And I had already seen this article before that, so I knew it was coming. But yeah, we're getting another miniseries with the crew. I don't think it says how many issues this is, but quote, "It's been an absolute joy and privilege to get to co-write Ms. Marvel with Iman Vellani, who from Sabir Pirzada, who has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that she is the voice of Ms. Marvel on the page just as much as she's on the screen." That was a quote. We are excited to report that Kamala's mutant journey will continue on in Ms. Marvel Mutant Menace, and will be Kamala's most dangerous ride yet. End quote. There's a cover. Next up.
Marvel has offered a glimpse of Johnny Blaze's final moments as Ghost Rider. So, it's been announced that Marvel is introducing a new Ghost Rider in 2024. Apparently the story is that Johnny Blaze is losing control of the Spirit of Vengeance to a new mysterious and possibly villainous figure with potentially disastrous consequences. So we'll see what happens in 2024. This book is going to be out. Ghost Rider Final Vengeance #1 is published by Marvel on March 13th, 2024.
Mm-hmm. And the art for the cover is done by Greg Capullo, who's more known for doing Batman stuff.
I would say that's at least a variant, it says, I think.
Yes.
Right.
Well, wait, is that not, that's not the cover? Yeah, I guess you're right. It doesn't necessarily say. Yeah, it does say variant. You're right. Okay. Well, either way, just doing some Marvel work as opposed to his the Batman stuff, which we knew was going to happen.
I think I saw on his socials that he had just signed an exclusive with Marvel.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. I did not see about that. Speaking of Marvel, though, former Marvel publisher John Nee and 3 IDW veterans form a new company. Let's see.
I have a feeling that a former guest of our show and close friend of the show will have something to talk about with this.
I would suspect as much. It's the same person I know. Did you know that we were talking about? But yeah, the new company, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I didn't think to ask him about it. But the new company plans to cast a wide net with comics, art books, prose, and RPGs and other games, as well as offering talent consulting and custom publishing. It's currently running a crowdfunding campaign on Zoop for Conan the Barbarian Colossal Edition, which is a 190-page book featuring the art book of John Buscema, Barry Windsor-Smith, Gil Kane, and others. And it goes in with campaign stuff from there on. And then there's another comic book called Signa by Barber and artist Andrew Lee Griffin. And it looks like they have some other stuff going on Kickstarter and other places. So, yeah. Good luck with that, I guess. It's
yeah.
So, it's a weird climate for things like this, but at the same time, it's a weird climate for a lot of things. So, next up.
That's true. All right. So, the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game developer update #4 shines a spotlight on the Cataclysm of Kang. So long as it's not Jonathan Majors, I guess they're willing to promote it. Yeah. So this is this is an article about what's in the next kind of module, I guess you would call it.
Expansion, sure.
Module expansion, because remember that's what AD&D used to call them, modules.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure what they call them. But speaking of said module / expansion, I just happen to have it right here.
Look at that.
Yep. All nice and hardbound. Yes, baby. There's a look at
that.
Yep. I haven't quite thumbed through it yet, but it smells like new book. Love that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to thumbing through this and possibly getting a PDF copy at some point. And maybe, I don't know, at some point I would love to run a campaign on it, but we'll see how that's going to, if that ever happens with any of these. So,
right.
But yeah, next up though, Marvel Legends New Warrior Nova unlimited annual membership kit pics and views. So basically, we had already talked about this is going to be a thing. This is basically pictures of the figure that this article is talking about. So if you're watching the video, you can see Red Nova there, along with his other stuff that I guess comes along with it. Some close-ups, some poses, some other folks with him from the Spidey corner. There's Murdoch, Sandman. yada yada and yada yada and yada. Hey, there's that Firestorm that I already have. And there's a Night Thrasher, which I didn't think. I guess there is one out, huh? Wait, was that Frankie Ray Nova already out?
No, that was included with Galactus.
Oh, gotcha. But yeah, various poses, various pictures. There you go, folks. So if you got that, then you also have that Nova. I'm sure it will not be an exclusive for more than probably a year maybe before they put it out. To on the market. I mean, on the boards, I guess it would say. Yeah.
Hard to say.
Next up, though.
So, it's only surprising that Hasbro canceled its Selfie series Marvel action figure program because they had just started putting in improvements to the system, but apparently it just has not been profitable.
Yeah. Which is sad because I feel like that's something I probably would have wanted to do but never did. And I guess I don't know if it was, touted.
I did not see myself on the head of my Captain America action figure.
Which I'm kind of surprised by that. But yeah, I guess, I guess not. So, but yeah, this is across the board. So the Marvel, G.I. Joe, and Ghostbusters stuff and Star Wars stuff, across the board where they're doing it. So like he said, I guess it wasn't profitable.
Right.
Next up, though, Funko launches Marvel Bitty Pops because the pops and the keychain pops weren't small enough as it is. And they also, so the Bitty Pops are 0.9 inches. I guess there might be variations according to this. The figures will be encased in hard acrylic cases with a detachable bottom lid. And then the lid doubles as a stand to put the figures on once you removed it from the case. So, and wait, are they doing blind boxes? Yep, sure are. Everybody loves that. So they're going on sale for $3, if you're so inclined for that. Next up.
Marvel Snap developers say the card game won't go anywhere as publishers reportedly look to exit, quote, mainstream games. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure who was publishing this thing, but I guess it makes sense. Or not make sense. But so yeah, that's good to know that it's going to still be around, I guess. Next up, because still popular enough. Wizards of the Coast announces Dino Size December for Magic the Gathering. Oops, sorry. So to help reinvigorate in-store drafts events prior to the introduction of play boosters and clear out any piles of draft products sitting on the retails, Wizards of the Coast will be sending WPN locations in North America, and Europe, and Asia one draft booster box of March of the Machines to inspire them to schedule and run dino-sized draft events. These Chaos Draft events occur in player pods of 8, and players draft 4 packs instead of the usual 3. So yeah, they're really trying to get rid of that old stock, huh? The Dino Size event can alternatively be run as a sealed event with 7 packs instead of 6. So they can just get rid of all of that stuff for some reason. Next up.
Sweet. Holy goodness. So Kotobukiya figures are making classic Decepticons beautiful in the sense that they're turning Decepticons Thundercracker and Starscream into pretty anime girls. Come on, folks. Seriously.
Oh, somebody will buy it.
I know.
If you're watching the video version, you can see me scrolling through those figures. Sure. Next up, Renegade Game Studios unveils new Transformers RPG sourcebook, The Enigma Combination, which is scheduled to hit retail in April 2024. I don't think I have the core rule book for this RPG, but yeah, it's going to retail for $45. And if the name didn't tell you anything about it, yeah, combiners, folks, combiners. Next up.
TMNT Kickstarter officially passes $1 million because fan support has obliterated the original goal. I should just jump in on this.
I thought about it too when I read this.
Right, they exceeded they exceeded the original Kickstarter goal of 250,000. That's pretty damn good. So they've unlocked fans have unlocked bonuses and the stretch goals, including playing cards with art from the game and a new miniature of the Fugitoid character. Apparently, there are still stretch goals to be unlocked because they keep adding them on. So there is a potential to reach $1.4 million and introduce an April O'Neil miniature and new rules for a quote mystery mutant unquote chosen by fans. Okay, maybe that's a reason to jump on.
Maybe
I gotta send this to a buddy of mine and see if he wants to jump in.
It's probably Jenica, right? I mean, I can't think of. I know there are other mutants, but I figure she's the fifth, or it's Venus and the Milo. I don't know, but yeah, I thought about this when I saw this, and when we talked about this last week, it was like 2 weeks ago. It was already 80%, so we kind of figured it was going to make to make the goal. So not surprising at all. And again, wouldn't mind running a campaign. Next up, though, speaking of surpassing goals, Ghostbusters HasLab surpassed 15,000 backers, unlocking second stretch goal. So this was for that trap, with the patches and whatnot with it, with the holster also. So yeah, looking ahead, the next and final stretch goal comes with 18,000 backers, somewhat mirroring today's reward, the psychokinetic energy to take.
Oh wait, is it over? It might be over, the Kickstarter.
Is it? Because this was from a few days ago, so that's quite possible. Let's see if it sends me somewhere. Send me to the page.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing.
Snooze you lose, folks. Snooze you lose.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm pretty sure cosplayers have gotten in, who else got in on this already. Here we go. Oh no, it ends in 10 days.
Oh, maybe they extended it.
Maybe. It said we will stop taking backers 11:59 Eastern on December 11th. So you still got time, folks.
Is.
Yeah, and this for the PKE, the trap, and whatnot. So yeah, you still got time. Next up.
Got it.
You thinking about it?
Oh no, we're talking about the Has. I thought you were talking about I'm looking at the TMNT. I'm not talking about the HasLab.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just like, wait. I think the TMNT Kickstarter is already closed.
Oh, okay. No, I was talking about the Ghostbusters one. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard you say PKE. I'm like, no.
Right.
You're not talking about the same thing.
I mean, maybe they'll put it out, after they do their orders, if they have any left or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up. Anyway, next up. New Walking Dead video game makes the Rick versus Shane fight hilarious. Okay. So a new video game based on the TV show gives players the power to change how the show's biggest moments play out. Okay. That includes the ability to alter a critical death scene from spoiler alert for a very old show from season 2, in which Rick Grimes kills his former friend Shane Walsh. Okay.
Yeah, how about that? Wasn't that early on in the show? Anyway. Warner Brothers denies
season 2.
Yeah.
Season 2.
Yeah. Warner Brothers denies that Wonder Woman will be a service game after job listing. So So Warner Brothers, after, I don't know, they're trying to say, unlike that Gotham Knights game, which I believe was a service game, which means that after it comes out, they're going to add more stuff to it, and to try to get more money off of you. And do like events and stuff like that, I guess. But we'll see here. Anyway, they cite Call of Duty.
The TMNT just ended.
Okay. Well, like I said, maybe they'll put that out.
They did not hit the 1.4.
But they still did pretty good. So.
Yeah, they definitely did pretty well. I'm just scrolling through it now.
But yeah, like this article says, live service games are supported long after launch with seasonal expansions and often have microtransactions for other elements like cosmetics and weapons, like that Marvel's Avengers games, for example. Popular examples are also Fortnite and Call of Duty. in Destiny 2. So, yeah. Let's hope they don't screw that game up like that. Next up.
Oh, one moment.
Ooh.
Let's see. What are we up to?
DC Comics Animal Man.
DC Comics Animal Man roars with a McFarlane Toys DC multiverse figure. Okay. Listen, Buddy Baker, if you want him, go get him.
Right.
You know, it's when is this coming out?
I assume this is the new, because I don't think this is his. Not that I'm all that versed in Animal Man, but this is his newer costume, correct? If you know.
No, it looks pretty classic.
Well, I guess.
I mean, from what I remember, you know, right. He's available. He's exclusive to Target for $19.99 with a January 2024 release.
I guess maybe I'm recognizing the jacket and they don't have him in these pictures. With the exception of, yeah, I guess I don't freaking know. McFarlane Toys, speaking of, okay, come on. McFarlane Toys offers a sneak peek at an all-new figure of Superman that resembles his classic look from the comics. If you're watching the video version of the show, you can see a picture of said figure, and sure, yeah, got the curl, got the S on the chest, got the cape. What else do you need, I guess? Pre-orders December 8th, 2024, so that's a good ways off. And also probably mean that they could possibly make some changes until up until the episodes are coming out. So, but yeah, there you go. Next up.
Alrighty, next up. So apparently, Superman's new sword and shield will replace his powers, apparently in a perfect way. So this is spoilers for Action Comics number 1059. Hey, you know what? Sword and shield, you know, more power to you.
Indeed. Which I believe is either this week or last week.
Apparently Supes has had his powers drained and weakened because, you know, what else is new? You got to bring him down to our level.
There you go. Once again, nope, it's this week. So yeah. And he's working with steel. So I don't know if that has anything to do with Steelworks, but hey, there you go. Next up, though, shut up. Alan Scott's Green Lantern, Green Lantern gets a new origin story, and that has been, I haven't had a chance to read that miniseries that's going on right now, but this is a spoiler alert for Alan Scott, the Green Lantern #2, which I believe also came out this or last week. And I guess kind of gives them a little different, I guess gives them some more backstory that more than I knew he had, so I wouldn't have known the difference one way or the other. Next up.
So, spoilers for this week's Titans Beast World reveals Beast Boy's ultimate form. I don't know if I would say that, but, you know, I'm not going to spoil exactly what it is. It was a little surprising, but it does lead into why this story has the subtitle or the title that it does.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a spoiler for those who hadn't read it, but I think I already know about it because it was in the original news article about that event, if it's the same one I'm thinking of. But anywho, Mad Cave Studios announces Free Comic Book Day silver titles for 2024. That includes the aforementioned Gotcha Man book, Flash Gordon, and Asterix. There is the Gotcha Man cover, which again I'm looking forward to. Written by is that actually? Yeah, it is. Cullen Bunn's writing that. That's Cullen Bunn, Tommy Lee Edwards, and Steve Orlando with the color artist Chris Samney. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, and the Loud House, which I hadn't known anything about. Like I said, I kind of put something out there on Twitter. Maybe Matt Cave would have seen, and maybe we would have could possibly get some Matt Cave books so we can get that Gotcha Man book. But I hadn't heard anything yet. So, well, next up.
Transformers #5 has some spoilers and because it hints at the return of a major Decepticon, possibly it's over, Prime, as Starscream resurrects a powerful warrior to eliminate the Autobots. That's not, it's not certain yet, but if there are other possibilities.
Right, and also knowing Starscream's history, would he really resurrect that particular person? Knowing his aspirations, we'll find out. Like I said, that they've been taking a sweet time about that.
Yep.
About that thing, but I'm still enjoying it. So anyway, speaking of Skybound, I think this might be news that we talked about before, but just in case we haven't, Skybound and Hasbro announces this Transformers and G.I. Joe special for Free Comic Book Day. It's called the Energon Universe 2024 Special. Will feature 3 brand new stories set in the shared universe of Skybound's comics. So yeah. It says might be that aforementioned or that hinted at character might be a part of this, and some other stuff that they're hinting at in this article. So yeah, and of course there's a G.I. Joe some stuff, and they hint around the already returned. No, they don't. That's another thing. But yeah, a G.I. Joe thing basically is also going to be in this as per said. So yeah, next up.
So a pretty impressive team of creators, including Tom King, Peter Gross, Tamra Bonvillain, and Clayton Cowles, have come together to create Animal Pound, a modern retelling of George Orwell's classic Animal Farm that will hit stores this December. And this article, basically details, what brought them to create this adaptation. And this book will hit stores on December 20th.
Yeah. Last but not least, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return reveals the first look at a new Green Ranger who has a familiar name to some folks. And that name is Olivia Hart. The Hart part being the familiar part because it seems like it's going to be the daughter of wow, how the hell did I forget her name? The original Pink Ranger. Kimberly, that's her name. There we go.
I was about to say, you're not looking to me to figure out who the Rangers are. So
no sir. So yeah, so it looks like this is going to that's going to be the thing in this book when it happens. But and which makes sense because it's being written by the original Pink Ranger, Amy Jo Johnson. There you go. And with that, folks, that is it for the news section. We get one last ad to read.
Our last ad read of the night, folks, is to help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And folks, that brings us to the end of the show. Let me do something very, very quickly before I say anything else. There we go. Thanks to each and every one of you all for coming out here. Appreciate you as always, whether you come by while we're recording or afterwards, or when it hits audio. We appreciate you there. We should be next week is going to be an off-scheduled one because of things, but we will let folks know on social medias, which goes as follows. I am Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. This is not a rerun, so why is that still there? Agent_70 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. PC_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Network, Pop Culture Net, Pop Culture Network, and all the umbrella sites they're in. And Tim DOGG90 on Twitter, CB Chron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account, the Kliq Nation on Twitter, the kliqnation.com, and of course, comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off. Is he on Threads? I don't know. Excuse me. You could find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast Network. That's ESPN.us.
Do it today.
You could also find us on your podcast browser place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast of the Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and leave us all the positive 5-star reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts.
And speaking of Spotify, I'm sure you've got your Spotify Wraps for this year, or starting to. Maybe we're on it. If you do, hey, shout us out on the Twitters or whatnot. We're probably not, but hey, it would be nice to see if we were. Right. You can find us recording mostly every Thursday night, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel of the Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/the Kliq Nation. And twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Yeah. And with that, folks, so 8 to 7 can go get some breast, and I can go do whatever's. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
I love it when a plan comes together.